across the timeline, plays it to Christian Brown. Here's a lob. A slam! A 40-foot alley-oop. CB on the lob. Apache on the throwdown.
Quick cut. Oh, yeah. All right.
Beautiful.
Countdown to March Madness number 3. My paper that I have here says number 1 for some reason, so I messed that up.
Good work.
That was a mistake. It was a copy and paste action where I forgot to switch the 1 and the 3. All right. This is the 3rd edition. We got next Monday, we will have a conference tournament beginning. So something to look forward to there. Wow. I'm not even sure what league it is, but I have a thing in front of me that says it, so I'm just going to look. It is the NEC, the Northeast Conference. Conference tournament starts next Monday, so we'll be all over that. We'll make a prediction for that, I'm sure, in the Monday episode as well next week. But we'll talk about what's happened in the last week, and everyone's going to want to talk about the whole thing that happened yesterday in Michigan, Wisconsin. We'll get into that. We won't go too in depth because everybody's talked about it, and I think it's enough. Going too in depth with this whole thing. But
sure.
Before I wrote down the best game of last week to me was Villanova going into Providence and winning 89-84. Wild game at the Dunk. It's the Dunkin' Donuts Center. They call it the Dunk. I think it's way cooler when you call it the Dunk. So I'm going to go with that. Colin Gillespie was unbelievable. 33 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 58% from the field, 10 for 17, 5 of 8 from 3. And he did what great college basketball guards do, hit a big shot, 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Seems pretty significant. And I think we're back in on Villanova, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I was gone at the beginning, but, man, they're good. You talk about their depth a lot, and they're not deep very much, but the guys they got are really good. And Colin Gillespie, when he's hitting, it seems like he never misses. So
they're like a very they have a championship pedigree in the program. Like they've won 2 titles in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that
they've been there. Yep.
Yeah, people don't really talk about that a lot. Like the fact that Villanova has 2 titles, like I don't think that people talk about that very much. Like they talk about Virginia winning in 19 after losing to a 16 seed. They'll talk about what Baylor did last year, but like nobody really talks about Villanova. But I think a lot of that maybe has to do with the Big East. Like the Big East is a conference that doesn't really have very much hype in it at this point. I think there's a lot of very bad or mediocre teams in the conference because outside of like Villanova, Providence, UConn, kind of Xavier this year, I think it's pretty lackluster in talent, but whatever. Also, we're to the point of the year where the Big Ten's being talked about a lot and how good is it. And last year there was a lot about the Big Ten about how good it was, and then everybody fell flat on their face in the tournament with the exception of Michigan last year. What is the Big Ten? I don't even know.
And that's a really good question. Because the Big Ten is I don't know, you have those games that are just weird, like 46-43 or whatever, that Rutgers Iowa game. It seems like their teams can be really bad at times, and then they can be really good at times. I think you've even seen that with Purdue. Right now, Purdue looks as good as they have all year. And then, a team like Illinois probably doesn't look as good as they have all year. They've been struggling quite a bit, especially putting together a full game. And then you have Wisconsin, who they just keep winning. And I think that Wisconsin's one of those teams that they can either go really far in the tournament, or they could lose their first game. So, it kind of depends on what teams show up at the tournament. And the good thing is, I guess you have older kids now because everybody could come back if they wanted to. Everybody's probably been there and they know what to expect. So maybe the Big Ten will make a better run, but I don't know. I really don't.
I think I think you could separate the Big Ten into 3 tiers. I think Purdue is in tier 1, but they're also a little bit ahead of everybody else in tier 1, which would be Wisconsin, Illinois, and Ohio State probably. And then the second tier would be Rutgers, Michigan State, Iowa. I guess Michigan and Indiana belong in there too.
Yeah.
And honestly, Penn State, I think, would be another team that I would throw into that tier. They're not going to make the tournament unless they win the Big Ten tournament, but they're also not in that last tier of Northwestern, Maryland, Minnesota, Nebraska, which is just a horrendous part of the conference. So I feel like it would be probably disrespectful for me to put Penn State in with the bottom 4 just because of how they've played. Like, they're a good defensive team. They play really hard. There's a clear difference between this year's team and last year's team with the way that Micah Shrewsbury has coached there. I think he's done a good job, and I think that that's why Penn State's not going to be lumped in with the Northwestern. Maryland's had some good performances, but they're just very inconsistent. And Nebraska is just a total train wreck. So I don't think that I would put Penn State in the bottom tier. I think I'd put them in the very low part of the second tier because they're a good defensive team.
Sure.
And they play a lot better or a lot harder under Shrewsbury than they did for the interim head coach last year, whose name I don't even know. That's how unimportant it is. But let's go to the ACC. How much do you think the ACC teams could be punished for the idea that their league stinks? Like, outside of Duke, there's nobody in the ACC that you really look at as a threat.
Yeah, I mean, you usually think of the ACC and you think they're going to get 8 to 9 teams in. This year, their conference records look good, but do they match that conference record with the eye test?
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you have North Carolina, who I think right now is considered a bubble team, who's third, tied with Miami, and you don't even know if they're going to get in the tournament, right? I mean, I think they're on the right side of the bubble right now, but it'd be weird if the ACC only got 3 teams in.
Here's the thing.
I don't know if that's possible, but.
And John Fanta last night on the Field of 68 show brought up a great point. If you watched North Carolina and their win on Saturday over Virginia Tech, that's a road game. That's a quad 1 win. But guess what? Those are 2 teams that are not deserving of getting a quad 1 win against each other.
Right.
Like, neither of those teams played well. It wasn't a game that you thought a quad 1 win is on the line here for North Carolina. It's just that's why you just can't look into the quad victories as much as I think they want us to. It's just because North Carolina is not a good basketball team. Like, they have had many games against quad 1 opponents where they've gotten destroyed.
Stomped, yeah.
I just don't see them as a tournament team, but I think
I don't know how you leave them. Even if you say the ACC's down and they end up winning, 22 games or 21 games,
can't leave them out.
How do you not put them in? I mean, currently they're 2 games back of first place Duke in the ACC. So I just don't understand. Like, I don't know what you like. Are they gonna, have 6 teams in just because, those teams are all 11-6 or better right now, or will the committee keep them out?
I think when North Carolina gets absolutely stomped by Duke to end the season, that's really going to hurt North Carolina because they might lose at Duke by 30. I mean, that's Coach K's final game of the regular season and his final game against North Carolina.
Yeah.
They are going to get destroyed in that game.
Yeah.
So I just don't
wonder. Yeah. They average 7.3 teams a year, and they might get 4. Is 4 max? You think?
I would think so, unless
Syracuse,
if a Syracuse type team wins the ACC tournament, which could very well happen.
Right.
I just don't see a scenario where you give the ACC that many teams. Like, you have to. At some point, you can't just look at the school or the conference and say, well, they have to be in the tournament. Like, North Carolina's resume sucks. Their eye test sucks. Every team in the ACC is not above average to me except for Duke. And you look at Lenardi right now, and this is updated as of a date that I can't find when he updated it. This is updated as of 3 days ago, so there's going to be another big update coming. But he had 5 ACC teams in.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that. Like, how – I just don't understand it. Like, he has North Carolina last 4 in. He has Duke obviously in. He has Notre Dame as a 9, which is just unbelievable to me. Wake Forest and Miami as a 9. So pretty much Duke as a 2. North Carolina as a 12. And then he has Miami, Wake Forest, and Notre Dame as 9s. I just – if they get 5 teams, it's going to be unbelievable to me.
And the real question is, would those if that wasn't North Carolina and it was, say it was somebody else in the ACC, like Georgia Tech or something, would Georgia Tech get in, or are they getting in because they're North Carolina? It's kind of like people keep talking about Michigan being a bubble team and they're 14-11. It's like that's seriously driving me crazy.
Yeah, because you would think the Michigan at this point is not going to end up with more than like 17 wins. So I feel like that's – I mean, the old school way of it can kind of be looking at records, but there's so much more to it now.
Right.
But North Carolina is going to get in if their resume – like if they don't get embarrassed by Duke and they win a couple of ACC tournament games, they're going to get in.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. The Pac-12, another very confusing conference because Oregon – looked like they were going to beat Arizona, played well, and then they just fall apart. That's what they've been this year. And I mean, you got to know what the score is at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like you take a 2 when you're down 3. Like,
that was the weirdest end of a game I've seen in a long time.
And USC probably should have lost to Washington State last night. They ended up winning. UCLA, without Juzang, had a really slow start against Washington, but ended up blowing them out. So I feel like Arizona in the Power 6 conferences, I think Arizona has the biggest gap between them and the next best team in their conference. Yeah. Because in the Big Ten, I don't think Illinois or Wisconsin or Ohio State are that far behind Purdue. In the SEC, I don't even know who the best team is. I mean, Auburn and Kentucky are clear 1-2, but who's better? I think there's a debate there. The Big East, I think Villanova is a lot better than everybody else, but I also think that Providence and UConn are not as far behind as UCLA or Oregon or USC in the Pac-12. And then, like I said, the ACC, Duke and Arizona are the 2 biggest gaps. So, I mean, this conference is just horrendous. And I really hope that we don't get screwed out of an actual deserving at-large team getting in because some
just to get
BS Pac-12 team won the tournament. Like Oregon State last year, that can't happen again this year. Right. Arizona or USC or UCLA need to win this tournament. Although I think Oregon has a chance because they always somehow show up in these spots, but they didn't show up in the second half on Saturday. So whatever. Right. Let's see. Ken Palm likes Kentucky much more than Auburn. Your thoughts?
Seems fair. I think Kentucky's finally playing a lot better. They didn't have 2 of their guards this week and still won pretty handedly, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, they were giving up a ton of points. They got a big punch in the mouth against Bama, and then they just blew out Bama after that without Wheeler, without Ty. So here's the thing. I usually am all over Kentucky. I picked them to win the tournament all the time.
Right.
I'm not buying into the hype yet. I'm just not. I just see a lot of inconsistencies there. I think if Ty is not playing long-term, then you have a real problem with their offense. But the thing that can mask that is Grady hitting 7 threes like he did on Saturday. So
true.
I still like Auburn a little bit more, a little bit. It's very close, but the metrics would tell you that Kentucky's the number 2 team in the country and Auburn's number 6. And Kentucky's offense is 13 spots better, while Auburn's defense is 13 spots better than Kentucky. So I don't know. I'm not buying in the hype fully yet on Kentucky.
Well, I mean, Auburn's kind of one of those streaky teams. They've won some games they probably shouldn't have. Their record could be a lot worse than what it is. So.
Them and Alabama might be the 2 biggest playing down to their competition teams in the country, playing down or up.
Yeah.
Because Alabama showed up against Gonzaga, beat them, showed up against Kentucky for a little bit, and then just couldn't make anything. But then, like, you look at Alabama's losses, you look at Auburn's losses or Auburn's close calls. Florida is a mediocre team. I know it's on the road, but still.
Yeah.
They played down to Georgia. They played down to Missouri. That's just bad. Like, you can't have that in March. And Alabama the same way. They lost to Georgia and Iona. So we'll see. All right, Houston. I don't know what we make of them. I definitely don't think they're anywhere near as good as they were last year. The metrics still like them, though. 7th overall on KenPom. They lost back-to-back against SMU and Memphis, and they had a close call with a double overtime victory over Wichita State yesterday, which we were watching. And, some of the worst defense I've ever seen by Wichita State late. So
that was brutal.
Really blew that. So I just don't know what to make of Houston. I don't think the American is a good conference at all after a couple of the top teams. I mean, Cincinnati's all right. Memphis is just not it. And I don't know. I feel like Houston is probably not going to get past the Sweet 16 this year, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. What do you think of Houston?
I think you're exactly right. I just don't think that they've shown that they're as good as, maybe they started off. They're struggling as of late, it seems, but I think they could make a run. I mean, Elite Eight, maybe, but
depends on the draw, probably.
Yeah, it's all about matchups once you get to the tournament. So
they have some injuries too, so I don't know. All right, let's do this before we move on. Juwan Howard, Greg Gard, that whole thing yesterday. We watched it live right after we went off the air for the Illini podcast. Your thoughts?
It's just weird. I think they kind of somebody had a video. Pablo Escobar or somebody had a video up close, and it seemed like Juwan Howard wanted to walk past Greg Gard. Greg Gard kind of grabs him and says, "Hey, we're going to talk," and then people started defending each other, and a smack to the face, a punch to the face. I don't know. I think it's all BS, and adults need to act like adults. But Juwan is threatened by small guys, apparently, because that's apparently why he wanted to kill Mark Turgeon last year. I think the biggest part of it that there is it's repeat. Juwan Howard walked through the line without shaking Brad Underwood's hand this year at when they played Illinois. So I know there's going to be punishments. I think there should be punishments. He's got to start acting like an adult. I know that, he's had a pretty good life, so he thinks that maybe he's above everybody, but you're not. So
I think that the biggest thing here is probably the fact that you look at the past interactions between the two, and it kind of seems like they're like weird buddies. That's kind of my takeaway from the last few times that they've had interactions in other games. But I just wonder if the Big Ten's actually going to get this right. Like, I could see a scenario where the Big Ten really screws up the punishments, but I would think that Gard should get a game just for being involved. And the fact that he did grab Juwan, to be fair, I don't blame him for doing that, but he did do that. And then obviously the assistant for Wisconsin was touching, and he's definitely saying things, I'm sure, but he was also, kind of pushing and putting his arm on a Michigan player. So he's definitely going to get a game or two at least.
Yeah. I don't think anybody was in the right here. I don't, and I feel like people have tried to push that narrative that, Greg Gard was in the right, or, Juwan was in the right because he felt threatened because his hand, somebody touched his arm. It's just, they should be embarrassed. They should both have apologized for what happened, and nobody did. That's kind of my thing. Like, you got to own up to your BS at some point. And it seems like it could happen again. The whole thing is there's nothing wrong with calling a timeout. There's nothing wrong with pressing. It's a basketball game. If you're that mad about it, just go to the locker room. Like, why even go through the line. If you're not going to shake anybody's hand, just.
But you're not pro getting rid of the handshake line altogether.
No, I think that's stupid.
That's ridiculous. And here's
if you can't be an adult and walk through a line and shake somebody's hand, then you probably shouldn't be on the court.
Well, you look around the Big Ten. Let's get Tom Izzo's thoughts here on the situation right here.
If some team doesn't want to shake hands, you're going to see 15 of my guys walk down and shake air. We're going to shake air, and I'm going to shake air, and then we're going to leave.
So he I love that, first of all.
Shake the air. And a lot of, like, you see it a lot. Teams are starting to just high five themselves, right? You don't even say hi to the other team. So
it's very weird. Yeah. I don't know. Well, if you look back, I looked at
stop acting like children is my thing.
I was looking at like blowout losses for Michigan and how Juwan interacted with the other coach. So I looked back at Illinois, Michigan last year when Illinois beat them by a lot at Michigan, and they had the COVID excuse, right? So they could just do the wave. How you doing? Thank you.
Wave and walk off.
Now I watched Underwood and Juwan from this year, and they did shake hands, but Underwood looked like mad about something. I don't know why. He just looked like the way he was talking. He just looked mad. I don't know what that was about. But you can't see Juwan's expression because he has a mask on. So thank God he had a mask on to protect himself and everybody. So congrats to him on that. All right, let's move on from that because it's enough with that already.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been talked about a lot. Evolution of the NCAA tournament selection process. I have a quote here from Committee Chair Tom Burnett, CBSSports.com. I believe this is a Matt Norlander article. Here's his quote. He says the eye test is not nearly as influential in discussion as it once was. We're talking about the full body of work, anything starting in November all the way through the conference tournaments, and that will factor into what we do. But there's a lot of conversation about why metrics shape up the way they do. What does this number mean? And we may not get to all the final answers, but it's certainly a big part of the conversation. I think that's what our membership wanted us to do a few years ago, was to bring that discussion into the committee room, get away from what's used to known as the eye test and just looking at someone and saying they're a good team, or maybe they're not a good team. They're in the bracket. They're not in the bracket. We certainly don't want to do that. We want to be able to back up information we share and reveal, whether it's this weekend or it's the real thing in 3 weeks. So I think the eye test is very important for some teams. Like, I don't think it should be used as much as they probably used to use it. So I agree with the idea of looking at the numbers more and maybe other things, but you cannot look at the BPI. The BPI is the stupidest, worst stat chart or whatever the hell you want to call it I've ever seen. Like, you have Wyoming is the 5th ranked team in their own conference in BPI. How does that make any sense when they're clearly head and shoulders above almost everybody in that conference? Like, they're like 92nd in BPI while San Diego State is 35th. I don't understand that at all. That seems like a joke to me, so I hope they don't look at that. But the eye test for a team like North Carolina would tell you they're not a good team, and it would say that for a lot of other teams that people probably think should be in. So, I mean, do you look at Indiana and think tournament team? No, but I think the resume will probably get them in, and the fact that they have a couple of quality wins. But I look at Rutgers, and I think they are way better than Indiana. Like, I don't even think it's that close. But there's more of a debate about whether Rutgers is going to get it because of those bad losses and all the numbers than Indiana. So, I don't know.
And I think they need to take into account how a team's playing, closer to than, Rutgers lost to Liberty or whoever, like I said, games in December don't matter to me. So, whatever.
I think they matter somewhat, but I don't think they matter as much.
I don't think they matter at all.
Well, teams are so much different, matter? But because it's still like when they look at the numbers, that still matters. Like, they're going to look at Alabama's resume and say, "Wow, they beat Gonzaga." That's going to be factored in some way.
Well, I mean, they would also look at
Lost
Duke and say, "Wow, they beat Gonzaga," but yet Duke's not the number 1 overall seed.
It's just one little stat. It's just one little stat.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think it's dumb.
I think the committee's dumb. I said it. Put us on the committee is what they should do. If they don't want to, that's fine. But I think that's something that they should consider, throwing us in the committee. All right, let's do the committee's initial top 16. Speaking of them, In the West region, which is San Francisco, it's Gonzaga, number 1 overall. It's Duke as a 2 seed, number 8 overall. It's Illinois as a 3 seed, number 12 overall. And it's Texas as a 4 seed, number 16 overall. In the Midwest, Chicago, it's Auburn, number 1, number 2 overall. 2 seed Purdue, 7 overall. Texas Tech, 3 seed, 10 overall. And UCLA, 4 seed, 14 overall. In the South, San Antonio, Arizona, 3 seed, or 1 seed, number 3 overall. Baylor, 2 seed, number 5 overall. Tennessee, 3 seed, number 11 overall. Providence, 4 seed, number 15 overall. East region in Philadelphia. Kansas is a 1 seed, number 4 overall. Kentucky's a 2 seed, 6 overall. Villanova is a 9 seed. Why do I keep mixing those up? They're number 9 overall, 3 seed, and Wisconsin 13 overall, 4 seed. So here are a couple takeaways. Number 1, please explain to me how Kansas is a 1 seed instead of Kentucky. And I think that conversation should come down to, did they play head-to-head? Yes, they played head-to-head. Who won that game? Kentucky. Where was it at? It was at Kansas. Was it a complete and total embarrassment for Kansas? Yes. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think Kentucky is more worthy of a 1 seed if it comes that close over Kansas. I think that the committee was generous to Wisconsin and Providence for their lack of good metrics, but giving them the 4 seeds. I think Texas is completely overrated. And I think that Arizona is the number 2 overall seed now with Auburn's loss on Saturday. This came out before that, so.
Yeah. I mean, you say that about Wisconsin, but, you look at the Big Ten, and there's 3 teams leading the Big Ten. They all have the same amount of losses. I believe Purdue has moved into first because they got another win. But if you have 3 teams tied for first in the Big Ten, I think that they're all good enough to be a 4 seed or above. So maybe the metrics don't say that. Maybe Wisconsin's had an easier schedule than most people.
Wisconsin's
in the Big Ten.
5th in the net in the Big Ten. They're behind Purdue, Illinois, Ohio State, Iowa.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable to me considering
I don't
Iowa.
know how Iowa's, yeah.
Their metrics are good. And then they're 1-5 in quad 1. They have 3 quad 2 losses. But whatever. I mean, I don't get it. But I guess it is what it is. Their average.
Iowa cracked the top 25 this week. So
props to them. Very exciting news for them.
Nobody cares about Rutgers, apparently, but sure.
Yeah, they lost yesterday. It probably killed them, which is stupid, but it's at Purdue.
Lost. Yeah, exactly.
And hung around, but then they covered the spread, though, so that's all that matters. Bada bing, bada boom. So, yeah, I guess the committee not punishing teams for bad metrics too much, which I think that's fine. I mean, Providence has a great record. You can say they've been lucky, which I would agree that they have been, but they have too good of a record to be probably outside of the top 16 at this point. That could change. I mean, you look at the last few years, we've seen a lot of movers and shakers with, various 1 through 4.
Well, that's what it wasn't last year. Wasn't Missouri in the top 16, and then they ended up being like a 9 seed or something?
Yeah. So
a lot of time for people to move. I mean, there's 4 or 5 games left, plus tournaments.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
Then you go to the bracketology action, the bubble watch, all that good stuff real quick here. I mean, here's the deal. We all know that the overall number 1 seed is going to be Gonzaga. So we can just get that out of the way, folks. Don't be surprised when Gonzaga doesn't play anybody. Oh, dude. I mean, just you talk about
if Gonzaga loses 1 game, either regular season or in the conference tournament, are they the overall 1 seed?
No.
Okay.
They would be the number 2 overall 1 seed.
Okay.
They would get jumped by Arizona, or maybe like if Duke makes a big run at it. I don't know. But, I mean, here's the thing. The bubble right now is starting to get better. I think we're kind of moving into that part of the bracketological discussions where the bubble is starting to look a little bit better. But once again, you have a situation where Kansas is being listed as a 1 seed over Kentucky, which I don't agree with. But you look at CBS's right now, Jerry Palm's bracket, which I always think is quite mediocre, but that's besides the point. Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, Kansas are the 1 seeds. Kentucky, Purdue, Baylor, Duke are the 2 seeds. So I mean, I don't really – that's a tough one. That is a tough one because you look at his bracket and I don't know. I don't see it as making a lot of sense. Like, I just don't understand why people are, like, in love with Indiana. Like, that just – come on. I just don't see it. I don't see them as a team that's going to do very much. I mean, you look at their resume. Yeah, they have 2 quad 1 wins and no bad losses per se. But the thing with quad 2 is very deceptive. Like, they lost Penn State, Northwestern, Syracuse, Michigan are all games that Indiana lost. Those are quad 2 losses. But Syracuse is bad. Penn State and Northwestern are not good. Michigan hasn't been good. And that was a home game for Indiana. They got blown out by Michigan. So that's another thing where it's like, okay, the Big Ten's – at this point, the Big Ten's being looked at as like a great conference, which I don't think it's as good as it was last year. So I don't know if we're going to evolve at any point into people not liking the Big Ten as much within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And teams could drop off. So a lot of that's going to depend on who wins the conference tournament. Like if it's chalk, if it's Purdue, if it's Illinois, if it's Wisconsin, if it's Ohio State, I think that that's fine. But if you have a Rutgers team or a Michigan team or anybody else winning it, then you're like, okay, now we got some problems. So right now, at this very moment, how many bids do you think the Big Ten will get?
I would say 7.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way it's not 7 or 8. I don't see 9, but 8 probably will happen.
I just I don't know. I don't.
It helps that the ACC and Pac-12 are not going to get very many bids.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Indiana. I don't know if they deserve to be in it. I definitely don't think Michigan deserves to be in it. So you're looking at Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio State, Rutgers, Michigan State, and Iowa. And I'd stop after that. So
yeah,
that'd be my choice.
It's not
Again, we don't know what's going to happen. 4 or 5 games left for all these teams. Ohio State could lose a few more, which would make Michigan and Indiana move up a little bit, I guess. But I don't know. I think there's too much basketball left to do bracketology, guys. Come on.
Yeah, let's get past the boring bracketology stuff and move on to our lineup of favorite players. So we kind of did something like this last year. Favorite player to watch, dynamic players, who you like, who you don't like, who you want to watch and play every night. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's start with each backcourt. So who is your backcourt for your team?
My backcourt would be, I guess, Jaden Ivey.
Okay.
For Purdue. I think that he is one of the best basketball players out there right now. I don't think he gets a lot of credit because he's got so much talent around him on his team. People say, oh yeah, he's good, but he's not in the talk for, a lot of awards or anything like that. But yesterday, that one dunk he had was absolutely amazing, if you ask me. Then I would go with Benedict Mathurin. I really like him. I like the way he plays. He's got a beautiful shot. If you ask Brad Underwood, that's what a pro looks like. So
It is, yeah.
him and Ivy are both averaging about the same, 17 or so points a game. So, and then I don't know. I have Agbaji and Jabari Smith. So I don't know wherever you want to put them.
I mean, Agbaji's a guard, but he's like 6'5". He can play the wing a little bit.
Right. So we'll go with Agbaji.
So here's what I worry about with your team. Who's running point? Ivy running point, probably?
Yep. Ivy running point.
So when I approach my team, I was like, okay, what wins in college basketball? Guards win in college basketball. Who is a winner in college basketball as a guard? Okay. Colin Gillespie. That is my point guard. Easiest pick I've ever made. He is probably one of the only truly elite point guards in the country this season. There's not very many of them. A lot of good ones, but I think he's a different level, and I wanted to run my offense. He's only averaging 3 assists a game this season, which is confusing, but the pieces I'm putting around him here would be elite. Shooting. I also went with Mathurin as my 2 guard. It was really between him and a list of others, but just watching him play, just so dynamic. He's going to be a lottery pick. from north of the border, Canada. How you doing?
Mhm.
I just think that he's got to be on the list. And if I was going to pick a Pac-12 player, I wanted to pick somebody from Arizona because I think the other teams are, not so good in comparison to them. So I went with that. My 3 is EJ Liddell, obviously. I think one of the most underrated players in the country. And I know that people were like, wow, really went out on a limb there to call him a top 5 player in the Big Ten. But guess what? People do not talk about him at all. Like Ohio State's a good team. You never hear him. It's all about Keegan Murray. It's all about Ivy. It's all about Edey. It's all about Kofi. It's all about Johnny Davis, which is just, come on. And also, how the hell can Johnny Davis win National Player of the Year when he's not even the best guard in this conference? Jaden Ivey is a better basketball player.
I agree.
I do not care.
I
So
agree.
that's a whole debate for another
It's all
time.
about numbers, I guess. It's all, you got to put up 30 a game.
Yeah, and then you gotta shrink in the biggest games and then not get flack for it. You got to completely no-show against Penn State and Illinois. So there you go. That's what you got to do. That's the requirement for winning National Player of the Year, folks.
Correct.
Congrats. So you have Jabari Smith at the 4.
Yeah.
I also have Jabari Smith at the 4, and I know who you're going to have at the 5, so just go ahead.
King Kofi of the Flying Illini 2.0. 21.7 points per game, 60% from the field, 11.2 rebounds per game, and as a big man, 1 assist per game.
So I wanted to go a little bit off the board here.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'm not looking for scoring. I got plenty of scoring with Gillespie, Matherin, Liddell, and Smith. I'm looking for rim protection. I'm looking for rebounding.
Walker.
I'm looking for, big bodies. So I'm going to go with Mark Williams from Duke.
Okay.
10 points, 7 rebounds, only a sophomore, big body, rim protector. I think he's a guy that could take Duke to another level. Didn't have that same kind of rim protection last year when you're playing Matthew Hurt and a freshman Mark Williams at the 4 and 5. Didn't work as well, but Duke has all the size, all the shooting, everything that they want. I think Duke is probably one of the top 4 teams in the country. They probably won't get a 1 seed because they have a couple of very questionable home losses, Virginia and Miami, and then Wake Forest was a close call. So, I just think that if you look at what his impact on the game for Duke, I'll take that. And in this hypothetical matchup between our two teams, I think he'll have some trouble with Kofi, but I think he'll hold his own enough to the point where my other guys can kind of get it moving. You have a clone Jabari Smith versus Jabari Smith, Matherin versus Matherin situation, Gillespie versus Ivy, and then Liddell versus Agbaji. So I like the chances there for my squad, but what can you do?
You'd lose by 20, but it's okay.
That's totally not true, but you can run with that if you'd like.
Who'd coach your team?
My coach would absolutely, for every reason ever, off the top of my head, my coach would be Tom Izzo, because we just played that video.
Okay.
And he likes elite guards that play on both ends that are veterans. Gillespie can be that.
Mine would be Juwan Howard, and he'd walk off the court after the game got over.
Because you would get blown out. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's do the next thing I have on here. Since, it's a big deal here. We do this every year. Power 6 conference tournament sleepers.
We did this with the mid-majors last time, right?
Well, now this is the big one. This is the one where you're like, okay.
I only picked mid-majors for this one. I'm joking.
That's a weird thing to say.
Okay, here we go.
So for people that actually a lot of people actually watch, casual fans watch these tournaments. That's the thing. Mid-majors, you're not going to see the hardcore guys like us will, but other people not so much. So, all right. ACC, who you got?
ACC, I'm a big homer, so I went with Florida State.
Jesus.
They have beaten Miami and Duke earlier in the season. Maybe they'll get something figured out. Maybe they'll get it going. But when you look at the ACC and you look at, teams that are playing well, I mean, I know that they're not going to get 6-7 teams in, but I can't pick a Virginia or a Wake Forest or, like you probably pick Syracuse because you love Jim Boeheim, but I'm going to go with Florida State.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. So I'm going to go with the Virginia Tech Hokies. number 23 adjusted offense, 70th adjusted defense. And I've said this many times. You look at their lineup on paper, and I know paper does not matter at the end of the day. This team should be so much better than they are, and it makes no sense to me that they are not good. Aluma returned. They have the white shooters from Wofford, which, those guys have played in the tournament before, or at least performed in some way, whether it's Couture, who I don't think was at Wofford, but close enough, and Storm Murphy. I just don't understand why this team is 8-8 in a terrible conference. I don't get it at all. But I think if they get hot and they shoot the ball well, they're number 4 in the country in three-point percentage. If they shoot the ball well and they get the right matchups, maybe they avoid Duke. If Duke gets picked off by somebody, they could very well win this tournament. I'm going to take Virginia Tech onto the Big 12.
I talked about it in the last one, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think Porter Moser is going to do something with Oklahoma. I know that they're not doing anything special. They've been in some games. They haven't been able to win them. I can see Porter Moser cracking down X's and O's and finding a way to win in the Big 12 tournament.
All right. That's a fair pick. I didn't really consider that too much. I went a little bit down a little bit here. I don't know. I mean, they're playing pretty well overall. I'm going to take Kansas State, just a team that has – the guards that you want to win. Their length is fine off the bench. I think a big key for them, obviously defense is not a problem with Bruce Weber. It hasn't really been much of a problem at K-State during his time there. Just a dynamic offensive, group of players, just not efficient this year. That's been a problem. They could get hot, though. I mean, Nigel Pack is somebody that's going to be hard to guard in these types of situations. 17 straight games with double-digit points. Mark Smith, total non-factor here, but K-State, we'll see. I think they could get hot. I'm looking for tough teams that have the decent numbers on either end of the floor with players that have, played a lot of basketball. That's what you want here. That's my strategy. I don't know what yours is, but let's go to the Big East.
I don't really have one, so I just kind of shut my eyes and picked a team.
That's not a bad one.
Anyways,
not a bad strategy.
Big East. I'm going to go with Butler. They've played a lot of teams close, I think, in the Big East. They lost to Providence by 1 yesterday. Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. And 7, they lost to St. John's by 3. They lost to Xavier by 2. They beat Marquette. I think Butler was supposed to be a lot better than they have shown this year. So I got them maybe making a little run in the Big East.
Yeah, I just don't think Butler's coach is any good. I think LaVall Jordan has totally overstayed his welcome there at this point. I don't trust them. I mean, they played pretty well yesterday. Providence, another case of them kind of getting lucky. Whatever. I'm going to go with the most me pick ever. I think I would probably pick them every single year. That's St. John's. I mean, their metrics are not good. 64th offensive efficiency, 69th defensive efficiency. But here's the thing. We need to see Julian Champagny in the tournament. He's too good of a player. He's been too good of a player. Him and Posh Alexander both are guys that need to play in the NCAA tournament. This is a tough team. They get out of control. They turn the ball over more than you'd probably like, but not as much as you'd think, even though they have the 3rd fastest tempo in the country. This is just too good of a lineup in the Big East to not get an at-large. How are they 7-8 in this conference? It just makes no sense to me. They got Creighton, DePaul, Xavier, Marquette to finish. They could go 3-1 there. You feel pretty good about the way that they're playing going into the tournament in that case. But at the end of the day, this team should not be as bad as they are. So we need St. John's to get in. Last year they ran into Seton Hall, lost early in the Big East tournament. I think that'll change this year. Let's go to the Big Ten.
I'm going to pick a team that you've been ripping on all day.
All right.
I'm going to take your boy TJD in Indiana.
Give me a break.
I feel like they've been very inconsistent this year. They've won some games. They were on a nice, juicy 4-game losing streak, but they did have to play Illinois, Michigan State, and Wisconsin during that stretch. They got Ohio State tonight, I believe, so could lose another one. But, you get TJD out there flexing and doing his thing. I think they could have a chance. I don't know how they're sitting right now. if it ended today, who they'd have to go through. But I have a feeling Indiana might make a little run, and I think it's the only way they get in. So,
well, Indiana's been a program recently that has been known to sink upon being asked to sink or swim.
Right now they would have to play Iowa first round and then play Purdue. So,
in other words, they're dead.
Big upset coming.
I'm going to go way off the board here and just randomly make a pick here. I'm going to take Penn State.
Okay.
Not a good offensive team, a very good defensive team. Top 40 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. Their lineup's pretty good on paper. I mean, Sam Sessoms can make some shots. Jalen Pickett's a solid guard. Miles Dredd, same thing. Seth Lundy's got the length. And then Har, I mean, he's kind of – he'll have his troubles against certain big men like Dickinson or Kofi or, whatever Purdue's going to throw at them. But he's been pretty good in a lot of these matchups. I mean, you look at what he did against Michigan State was a big reason they beat them. I think Penn State's a team that could kind of grit their way through a couple rounds in the Big Ten tournament. I think their first matchup's going to be an easy one, assuming that they finish where they're at right now, where they would probably play like Maryland or someone like that. Maybe Indiana? No, it couldn't be Indiana because we just talked about them. Duh.
Penn State would play Michigan and then play.
I mean, that's not that hard of a matchup.
No,
Michigan at least.
Michigan's terrible.
All right, Pac-12.
Pac-12. I'm gonna go with your boy Bobby Hurley. Arizona State. I know Arizona State's been very mediocre at times, but then at other times, they beat the crap out of Oregon, beat UCLA, played USC close. They've played Arizona close. And they have a bunch of athletes, and I've talked about that before. If they can just figure out how to put the biscuit in the basket, they could do something.
I can see it. I don't know if they will actually do that because they're so untrustworthy. The way that they play is just
$1,000,000,000%. Yeah, just
disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the team that I loved before the season that's really fallen apart. That's Washington State, 111th offensive efficiency, number 18 defensive efficiency. I thought they'd get an at-large bid before the season. Not looking that way. They started 7-3 in the Pac-12. They're now 7-8. They've lost 5 straight to Arizona, Arizona State, Oregon, UCLA, USC. So 4 pretty, okay losses there, and then Arizona State. So not ideal. They're a very young team. The metrics really like them. They're young, a lot of talent though. I think Noah Williams is a stud. They just haven't been what they're supposed to be, and that's the case with a lot of teams. But I still like them to try to get hot in the Pac-12 tournament. We saw Oregon State win it last year and then make a run in the tournament. So why not a different team do it this year? And I think Washington State or Arizona State could be that team. To see if Bobby Hurley actually wants to save his job. If I were him, I'd get fired because that place sucks. So I don't know. SEC.
The SEC, I picked Florida because they beat Auburn yesterday.
Good pick, great reasoning, no doubt. Much better team early in the season than they've been lately, but that's a big win there. I'm just going to take South Carolina because I like the way they play because they're good defensively and they play fast. And Frank Martin's a psycho. So, their interior front court, like their defense inside could be a problem. I know it's Sheboy and Kessler, but they pretty much do whatever they want efficiency-wise, not really volume-wise, but Oscar had 18 and 14 against them, and then Kessler had 12 and 10 with 4 blocks, and then he had 5 for 5 from the field. So that could be a problem for them, but I think that they could probably maybe handle some teams with their defense this time around. We'll see. Those are the conference tournament sleepers, Power 6. Those will be starting up in a couple weeks, all that stuff. Team of the week.
Team of the week. I went with Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is can be one of the best teams in the country. When they get guys going, they beat Baylor and they won at Texas this week. Stuck it to Beard, mess with the Beard, you get beat by the horns or something. I don't know. Texas Tech, good week for them.
Yep, I went with Texas Tech as well. Beat Baylor by 10, beat Texas by 6. They had tremendous defense against Texas on Saturday, 2-0 against Beard now. shout out to them. Kevin O'Banner had 23 against Baylor. I mentioned a couple weeks ago. If he gets going, that'll really change
He's
them.
huge for him.
And the length is just something that's going to kill somebody in the tournament. Their first round matchup is going to be like a 70-37 game. It's probably going to be against like a 14 seed or a 13 seed, but it's going to be ugly. Like they have two guys, or they have nobody under 6'3" and only two players under 6'6". So, yeah, they got length, they got defense, they got experience. They have a coach that I think fits the system a little bit even better than Beard did, but whatever. Player of the week.
I went with Julian Champagny.
Close enough. Champagne.
Shouldn't be Champagne. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, 29 points over 2 games. He had 31 against Butler, 27 against Xavier. Shot almost 50% from the field. Had 10 steals over those 2 games, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks. He's really good, and he plays for a team you like, right?
St. John's. Shout out to the Johnnies, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with your boy, Johnny Davis. 30 points, 12 rebounds, an assist, a block, a steal against Indiana. 25 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, 3 blocks over Michigan. Wasn't the greatest competition, but big games from him. He was actually efficient, 21 for 32 from the field overall. And the only reason I gave this to him is because he actually shot well from the field. We've seen games where he's had a lot of points and it was mostly free throws, but this time he actually scored efficiently and got a lot of rebounds. That's the one thing that he does better than any guard in the Big Ten is rebounding.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a big week. I don't really like him either.
He did.
It's not that I don't like him. I don't like the conversation surrounding him.
Yeah,
than anything, but it is what it is.
I honestly almost picked him just to see what you'd say.
That would have been something. That certainly would have been something. All right, real quick, top 5 analytical darlings. The analytics love certain teams, and last year it was San Diego State for their defense. It was Loyola Chicago for their offense. It was USC for their offense. Colorado and Iowa, all that stuff, and a lot of it's the same this year. The way that I look at this is a team that's really bad on one side of the ball for what they should be compared to their other side, and the fact that they're ranked higher than they would be just because of that one side. And that's Purdue, a good example of that. They're number 1 offensively, number 115 defensively, and that makes them 13th overall.
Wow.
Number 2, San Diego State, number 174 on offense, just horrendous offensive team. Number 1 defensively, so now they're 23rd overall. So, I mean, a team that's that bad offensively being 23rd is really something. Iowa is always like this, number 5 offensively, number 102 defensively, number 16 overall on KenPom. Iowa State, number 134 offensively, number 7 defensively, they're 29th overall. And then you have LSU is 106 adjusted offense and number 3 adjusted defense. That's number 17 overall. And a hilarious one is VCU, who's an honorable mention, number 248 adjusted offense and number 5 adjusted defense, and they're 70th. So that's a 243 spot gap between their offense and defense.
That's crazy.
It's really something, I think some would say, but that is what it is, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 3 upset picks of the week. I went 1-2 last week. I missed on Wake Forest, who almost won, and then I missed on somebody else. Then I got St. John's over Xavier, so nailed that one. Congrats.
What'd I go?
Really, I don't even know. I went 3-3 for the last 2 weeks, though, so we'll see.
Let's see. I picked Wake Forest over at Duke.
We both got that wrong.
Oklahoma versus Texas. Then that didn't happen.
I think Texas won that.
Yep. And Indiana versus Wisconsin. That was a win, right? Did I get that one?
Did Wisconsin lose to them?
No, I don't think they did.
I don't think they did. Because I just had Johnny Davis as my.
Well, I'm terrible at this game. Okay. Anyways, here we go. My 3 for the week. I got Michigan State at Iowa tomorrow night. Michigan State's going to win that game. I assume that Iowa will be the favorite since they're at home. I know that in the rankings, I think Iowa had like 59 votes and Michigan State had 58. So, but I assume Iowa will be the favorite at home. So I'm going to take Michigan State. They are sliding the wrong way. They lost to Penn State. They lost to Wisconsin. They lost to Rutgers. They had 1 win versus a terrible Indiana team who's going to make a run in the Big Ten tournament. And they also lost to Illinois at home. So Expect Tom Izzo to air high five a lot of people. My other one is going to be San Diego State going into Boise State tomorrow night also, and getting a dub against the Boise State
Broncos.
And then my last one is going to be your team, the Ducks. Thursday they play UCLA at home. I'm going to have Oregon winning against UCLA.
That's my lead. Thursday, Oregon over UCLA.
All right.
Boom. I'm going to take Michigan State to beat Purdue on Saturday.
Wow.
I think Michigan State's going to win a couple here. They've lost many games in a row. I think Izzo's going to be like, okay,
time to start.
You think
taking
that we can just air handshake people? Fine by me. We'll win, piss the other team off, and then we'll air high five people.
That's right.
Boom. It'll work every single time. Then my final one, I'm going to take Maryland over Ohio State because why the hell not? Because Maryland has very weird performances. It's a home game for them. Ohio State, I think, is going to lose some games they shouldn't lose. But I don't know. Maryland, why not? 64-60 is what the score is going to be in that game, by the way. So be on the look out there with Vegas and what they think. So we'll see. I mean, I totally bodied them with the whole Rutgers thing. So
yes.
Had that going yesterday. Nailed that one.
Yeah,
easily.
If you didn't hammer it, then that was your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Ethan's.
All right, there's not too many games of the week this week per se, in terms of what there normally is per day, but especially Saturday, there's not as much. But we're going to start on Monday tonight, 6 o'clock, coming up in about an hour from now. Indiana at Ohio State. That's on FS1. Then you'll have Loyola Chicago at Illinois State. Loyola Chicago looking to bounce back from a loss to Drake on ESPN Plus, 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, Baylor at Oklahoma State. Baylor looking to win some ball games here and keep that number 2 seed status potential. Then you got New Mexico State at Seattle at 9 o'clock on ESPN Plus. That's number 2 versus number 1 in the WAC grade conference, the Western Athletic Conference. Tremendous conference.
Arizona State, UCLA. Big game.
No interest. All right.
The Sun Devils got some work to do.
That they do a lot of work, like almost to the point where they should probably just quit.
Okay.
So
wow. Jeez.
That's something to think about if you're Bobby Hurley, just quitting and giving up. Something to think about. All right. Tuesday, 6 o'clock, number 18, Arkansas at Florida. Arkansas is hot. Florida just beat Auburn. Should have been an interesting game for the must-bust. See what happens there. Michigan State at number 25, Iowa. You say Michigan State's going to win that game. That's at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Then you'll have number 21, UConn, hosting number 8, Villanova, 7 o'clock FS1. That'll be a great game in the Big East. Oklahoma at number 9, Texas Tech. See if Porter Moser's offense can get 50 points against Texas Tech. I don't know. I'm not so sure. Kansas State at number 5, Kansas on ESPN, 8 o'clock. San Diego State at Boise State. You say San Diego State's going to go in there and win. That's right. 8 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. Number 24, Alabama, hopefully embarrassing the old Jerry Stackhouse in Vanderbilt, 8 o'clock on SEC Network. Yeah, that'll be fun, I'm sure. UNLV, who's been known to beat some teams, for fun and such. They play at Nevada at 10 o'clock on CBS Sports Network tomorrow night. Wednesday, Creighton at St. John's. The Johnnies need to get some wins here. Stack them up. Get them going. How you doing? Keep them moving. 5:30 FS1. 6 o'clock, Duke at Virginia. Virginia beat Duke at Cameron Indoor a few weeks ago. Revenge game, possibly, unless Tony Bennett sweeps Coach K during his farewell tour, which is a joke. Xavier at number 11, Providence, 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Almost picked Xavier for an upset there, but I think the dunk is too electric for them to lose.
True.
I think they'll win. TCU at number 20, Texas, 6 o'clock on ESPN2. Rattle off some more here. Rutgers at Michigan, 6 o'clock. George Mason at VCU, 6 o'clock. Wake Forest at Clemson, 6 o'clock. You got Wofford at VMI, 6 o'clock. Chattanooga at ETSU, 6 o'clock. The reason those are significant, number 5 versus number 3 in the SoCon for Wofford VMI. VMI trending in the right direction. Chattanooga at ETSU. That's number 1 versus number 8 in the SoCon, but East Tennessee State has number 53 adjusted offensive efficiency. So they're going to throw a lot at a Chattanooga team that's coming off of a loss. Something to think about. Number 14, Houston's been struggling at Tulane. Tulane trending upward in the American. Number 13, Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wyoming at Colorado State. LSU at Kentucky, 8 o'clock on ESPN. That'll be a good game there. Thursday, Maryland at Indiana, 6 o'clock. 6:30, Sam Houston State at Stephen F. Austin. That's ESPN Plus. South Dakota State at Oral Roberts, a solid Summit matchup. Oral Roberts started a fight with North Dakota State in the last game. That was a fight that wasn't talked about as much because it wasn't on national TV. Belmont at number 19, Murray State at 8 o'clock. Number 22, Ohio State at number 15, Illinois, 8 o'clock. Number 1, Gonzaga at San Francisco. A big challenge for Gonzaga. They'll probably win by 20, but it'll be a fun game for a little bit, I'm sure. 8 o'clock ESPN. Number 12, UCLA at Oregon at 8:30. And then 9 o'clock, UC Irvine at Cal State Fullerton. That's number 3 versus number 2 in the Big West. Friday night, I just threw it on there because there's really nothing. Northwestern at Penn State. That'll be hilarious. St. Louis at Richmond at 6 o'clock. And then 8 o'clock, Texas State at Troy. That's the number 1 versus number 3 in the Sun Belt right now. Saturday, 11 a.m., Michigan State hosts number 4 Purdue. Oklahoma State goes to Oklahoma on CBS for some reason. 1 o'clock, North Carolina at NC State. Number 20, Texas at West Virginia. Iowa State at Kansas State. Number 6, Kentucky at number 18, Arkansas. That'll be an electric game. 2 o'clock, Virginia Tech at Miami. Seton Hall at Xavier, 2:30. Number 3, Auburn at number 17, Tennessee, 3 o'clock. Loyola Chicago at Northern Iowa at 5. Duke at Syracuse at 5. Number 13, Wisconsin at Rutgers at 5. 7 o'clock, number 2, Arizona at Colorado. Number 5, Kansas at number 10, Baylor at 7 o'clock. Creighton at Providence, 7:30. Gonzaga at St. Mary's at 9 o'clock. USC at Oregon at 9 o'clock. These are all Central Time, by the way. Boise State at UNLV. Colorado State at Utah State. That's 9 o'clock, 9:30. And then the nightcap, 10:59 p.m. Number 1 in the Big West, Long Beach State at number 3 in the Big West, UC Irvine. Boom. Sunday, if you would like to see some live televised murder, number 21 at Georgetown. Tune in. There might be another 11 a.m. fight on CBS when Dan Hurley and Patrick Ewing go toe-to-toe. That's a fair fight. UConn is going to murder them on national television. That should be exciting. SMU at number 14, Houston, 11:30. Number 15, Illinois, Michigan at 1 o'clock on CBS. So 3 games on CBS. Wichita State at Memphis at 1:30 on ESPN. The third CBS game is Ohio State at Maryland. How the hell has Maryland been on CBS 3 the last 4 weeks? What the hell is going on with that? And then St. John's at DePaul on FS1, presumably at 4 o'clock. So those are the games of the week. Lots to do, lots to cover. There's going to be less games of the week as we go because we're going to get into the conference tournaments. Those will all lower the number of them overall. And I was kind of waiting to see if we'd see, because there was a rumor that
that they were putting out a statement today.
Yeah, there's supposed to be suspension stuff coming out soon, but we don't know what it is. So we'll talk about it probably never. All right. That'll do it for us. We'll be back next week for number 4. Countdown to March Madness. Conference tournaments start next week. We'll sort of talk about those and other things around the world of college basketball. We'll see you then.
Later.